Hello. This video is going to walk you through the basics of the Chemistry 117 syllabus. Everything that you need to know about the structure of the course policies, things that are important for you to be successful in the course, but not necessarily chemistry content. It's going to take a few minutes and it's going to walk through the syllabus. You'll find the syllabus as a PDF on the course website. So you might want to download a copy of the syllabus to follow along in this video and go ahead and mark it up as we go through so that you can make sure that you're noticing all the important things you need to know about the structure of the class. So this is the first page of the syllabus with just some basic information about when the class meets, and more importantly, this second half of the page, all of the people involved in the teaching of this class. You'll notice there's quite a lot of people who teach this class, and you'll be seeing us in the classroom. I'm Ann Jones. I'm the senior professor responsible for the lecture portion of Chemistry 117, and I work very closely together with Mr. Tim Lamb, who actually manages the recitation portion of the course, as well as the accompanying Chemistry 111 lab course that most of you are taking. And what you see here is that I have contact information for both me and Tim, as well as the names of all of the TAs who are going to be working with us this semester. These are people that you'll often see in the labs. Kanchana you'll also see in the recitation. And then you'll also see on here that I've got a lot of information about our office hours, because each and every one of us has at least 1 hour of time each week available specifically to help students from Chemistry 117. So for Tim and me, you can find where we're holding our office hours, as well as what times we're having those office hours. The TAs will all be having their office hours in what we call our Chemistry Learning Resources Center. That's a special room in the H wing of Physical Sciences that's specifically dedicated to chemistry tutoring. So in addition to those TAs, that room is always staffed by other Gen Chem TAs who can also answer questions about this class. So that's a really good resource. All the time between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, you can get access to free tutoring. So please, you don't have to go out and spend a lot of money to be successful in this course. That's another theme of this syllabus. But do take advantage of the resources that you have. So as you can see from this list of people engaged in this course, there are actually a lot of resources available to you and a lot of people available to help you be successful in the Chemistry 117 class. We all employ Whoops. That's a hot link. So we all have access to this chem117@asu.edu email. This is an email address that goes to both me and Tim, and that the TAs have access to as well. It is helpful that if you're in the middle of doing an assignment and you have a question and you want to email one of us, you can do that through this address, and you don't have to wait for whoever you email to respond to you. Whoever is reading that email address at the time will respond, and you'll be able to get faster responses. So that I would encourage you to use the chem117@asu.edu email for any communications that you have about science in the class. The only time you wouldn't want to use this is if you want to disclose something personal that you only want to disclose to one of these people, and then you would want to write to me or Tim directly. So the next part of this course, this syllabus, is the so-called course descriptions. This tells you a little bit about what we're going to be learning in this class, what you need to know in order to be in the class. We'll talk about that a lot during the actual class time, so I'm going to skip over it today. Instead, I want to go right to the next section, which is our course learning materials. So this is a really important section because it outlines for you the things that you have to have, the things that you might want to have, and the things that you don't need at all. So it's important for you to know that we have a detailed course website through the Canvas learning system that you should already have access to through your My ASU page. And on that Canvas site, you'll always find detailed course information, notes, announcements, etc. It's all in one place. And there's another video on that Canvas site, which you must have found to get to this video, explaining to you some of the things you can find in the Canvas site. So when you have a few minutes, please go take a look at that video as well to make sure you know where to find things in the course website. The second thing for you to know is that we do not require a textbook for this course. This is one of the most commonly asked questions that I get. We do not require you to buy a textbook. Don't believe anything else. Instead, I've written packets of notes that are available as PDFs on the website, and you will need to read them, print them if you want, write on them however you like, but you need to have those notes in order to be able to follow along in class. I do realize, however, that many people like to have a textbook. You are chemistry and biochemistry majors, and you will be studying chemistry for many years to come, and sometimes people just find it useful to have different options in terms of how things are explained. There is no book that specifically covers exactly the content that we're going to cover in the order that we cover it. And so there's no other book that you can pick up that's going to show everything to you in the same order that I am. On the other hand, I've identified 2 books that I think are good resources where you can get a different perspective on the material from those books. So the first of those in this list is Chemistry, Structure, and Properties by Nivaldo Tro. This book is available both as a paper book and an electronic book from the same company that we use for our homework system, as I'll talk about in a few minutes. So let me come back to that book in a minute. The second book that I'm suggesting is called Chemistry, Atoms First by OpenStax. That book is free, so that especially if you're looking for a low-cost resource to get you started, that is a really good place to go. The second book, the Tro book, is actually published by the Pearson Company. Pearson also runs the Mastering Chemistry homework site that we're going to be using for all of our homework assignments. So the one thing you will need to buy for this class is access to the Mastering Chemistry homework site. If you just want access to the Mastering Chemistry site, that access costs $69.99, might as well say $70. And if you want access to that site together with the Nivaldo Tro textbook, that's $120. Again, you do not have to buy the Nivaldo textbook. So the minimum that you can buy in this class is access to the homework site, which is going to cost you $70, and that will give you access to the homework site for Chem 118 in spring as well. And they do use that homework site in Chemistry 118 as well. As I said, and as we'll look at as we continue in this video, the homework site is not optional. All the homework assignments for this class will be in the Mastering Chemistry site, and all the quizzes for this class will also be in the Mastering Chemistry site. So it's really important that you go ahead and register in the Mastering Chemistry site as soon as possible, because our first homeworks and quizzes will be due a week from the first day of class, so a week from Friday. There's also going to be a video up on the website explaining how to use Mastering Chemistry and talking a little bit about the policies for grading within Mastering Chemistry, so you'll probably want to watch that as you get started as well. Now, although we're using an electronic homework site, which might be something kind of new for some of you, I highly recommend that you also keep in parallel a homework notebook. The disadvantage to an electronic homework site, if you sort of use scratch paper to solve the problems, you do the homeworks and you're done, you don't have your notes anymore if you then throw them away. And so if you go back to study for exams and you're using your homework to study for exams and you get to a problem and you can't remember how you solved it, you don't get as much out of the homework as you might have. So that I highly encourage people to solve their homework in a really orderly way in a notebook. Leave yourself notes, leave yourself tips, leave yourself questions. Show your work so that when you go back to study for exams, you will have access to that information again. It's also useful if you come into my office hours. So suppose you start the homework for the week on Monday, and then on Wednesday you discover I'm a little bit stuck. Well, I have office hours immediately after class on Wednesday. So you can come to my office hours, bring your homework notebook, and we can look at it together and sort of walk through your thinking to try to understand where you got lost. So I highly encourage you to keep your notes in a homework notebook. And this comes to this last bold statement in the homework section that I'm going to harp on over and over and over again. The goal of the homework is not necessarily for you to get correct answers instantaneously, and our grading policy is set up so that you're actually not badly penalized for wrong answers, because the goal of the homework is learning. I want you in this class to solve as many problems as possible, because that's the only way you will learn and be successful in this class. On the exam, I'm not going to ask you to read, I'm not going to ask you to take notes, I'm actually going to ask you to solve problems. And so how do you practice and become good for an exam? You have to solve problems on the exam. So in order to be prepared for the exam, you need to solve a lot of problems. So the homework is really essential in this course. And I want to encourage you to solve as many problems as possible. I even give ungraded homework problems to let you practice doing homework. Please take advantage of those opportunities. Okay, the next thing people always want to know, besides what they have to buy in the class, is how their grade is determined. And that's what this next page is about. It's how your grade is determined. Your grade is based on your scores in a number of different categories. As you know, this course, in addition to the lecture, has a recitation. So we have graded activities associated with the recitation. We have homework assignments in Mastering Chemistry, as I just described. We have quizzes in Mastering Chemistry. I'll come back to that in a minute. And then we have 4 midterm exams and 1 final exam. All of those things together, as you can see here, have point values. Every single assignment you do in this class has a point value. And all of those points add up to 1,000, where there's 65 extra credit points. All of the quizzes in this class are extra credit, and I'll come back to why that is later. But it doesn't really matter that they're extra credit because points are all the same. So you could think of those as being 65 essential points and 65 points in homework are extra credit. It doesn't really matter. The course is based on 1,000 points, and there are 65 extras in case you need them. That means there is no curve in this class. The final letter grades are simply determined by how many points you accumulate. So if everyone in the class accumulates more than 950 points by the end of the semester, then you'll all get A+. It doesn't matter how everyone else does, so there's no need to feel competitive with your colleagues. You can help each other. Don't do work for each other, but you can help each other. You can study together, and it won't hurt your grade in the end because I haven't decided that only 10 people get A's or only 20 people get B's or those sorts of things. Instead, the number of points you accumulate is exactly the grade you'll get. I know this is an unusual idea for some people, so that I actually created a spreadsheet, and the link is here in the course syllabus, and there's also a page about this in the course website. So there's a syllabus that you can actually put your grades into to determine what your current grade is and how well you need to do on future assignments in order to earn the grade that you want in this class. I would encourage you to do that, especially towards the end of the semester when you're wondering, can I still get an A? Well, just put in all the grades you have and what you think you might get on the future grades, and it'll tell you whether you can still get an A. Things like that. Okay. The other thing that's important to notice is we do have 4 midterm exams in this class, about 1 a month, as well as a final exam. Those exam dates are already here in the syllabus and they're fixed. I will not change the times of those exams. The exams are always on Fridays. There's 1 in September, 1 in October, 1 in November, 1 in December. And I would highly encourage you to put those into whatever calendar system you use right now, because I will not change the exam days. I might change the exact content on each exam, but the days are fixed. And that way you can go ahead and plan now. You can take your calendar and you can mark off 2-3 days before that exam time for yourself to study for the exam, because you know right now when the exam is going to happen. The other thing I want you to notice is that our final exam is already scheduled for the 11th of December. It's not at the same time that our class usually meets. It's a little bit earlier. It starts at 9:50. That's a university-determined time because the final exam is actually a 2-hour window, and I am not allowed to move that. So please do not come to me and ask me to change the time of the final exam. Do not ask me to give you permission to take your exam early or late or any of those things unless you have a religious holiday or a university-sanctioned event. I can't do it because you need to leave early from ASU or any of those other things. I'm simply not allowed. The next page after these exam dates is a description in a little bit more detail of each of the kinds of activities that you encounter in this class, how many points they're worth, when they're due, those kinds of things. So as I said, we have recitation activities, homeworks that are all in Mastering Chemistry. And then what I'd like to point out to you about homeworks is the way that they're graded. So we have deadlines for each of the homeworks, and the only way that you can earn full points for the homeworks is to submit them by the deadline. However, as I said, what is most important to me about the homework is that you do it and that you practice problems. And in chemistry, if you miss a homework and then you try to do the next one, you're going to be really lost. So I want to have some incentive for you to go back and do the homework even if the deadline has passed. And that means what I've done is you can still earn credit for the homework even after the deadline. So every day that you submit the homework late, you'll lose 5%. Up to 10 days. At 10 days, you'll lose 50% of the available points. After that, you don't lose points anymore. Until the last day of class, you can continue to submit that homework and you can earn up to 50% of the original point values. So most of the homeworks are worth 20 points. If you submit homework 1, which is due in September, if you submit that in December, you can still earn 10 points. So please, 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 if you miss a homework assignment, go back and do it later. It's still a chance to earn some of those points, but also to practice doing those problems. The other type of assignment we have in Mastering Chemistry is quizzes. Quizzes, as I said, are extra credit. However, I hope that you will do them because they're an opportunity to practice solving problems in a timed environment. You can have as much time as you want to do the homework assignments, but the quizzes are timed so that it feels a little bit like an exam and you have less chances to get them right. On a homework assignment, you have 3 chances to enter the correct answer before you're not allowed to answer the question anymore. On a quiz, you only have 2, and it's timed. And so that way, you can give yourself a little more authentic check. You can ask yourself, do I really know what I'm doing, or could I do the homework problems because I was working with my friends? So the other difference between quizzes and homeworks is I will put keys up on the website for the quizzes after the deadline passes. After the deadline passes, you can't submit it anymore. So I'll put keys up on the homework on the Canvas site so that you'll be able to check your answers for the quizzes and go back and use those to study for exams. I will not put keys for the homeworks up on the course Canvas site because you can continue to submit that work for credit up until the last day of class. So with quizzes, there'll be keys. With homeworks, there won't be. The other type of graded activities are happening in class. Those are the exams. We do have 4 midterm exams, as I said, and exams will require a calculator. We will not be allowing you to use a phone, a computer, or any other device that can communicate with other devices during the exams. So if you don't have an appropriate calculator, you're going to want to go ahead and get one now. And if you don't know whether your calculator is appropriate, please feel free to talk with me or Tim about your calculator to make sure you have one and you know how to use it properly before the exam. Because you don't want the first time you open up your calculator and use it to be during the exam. If you have to miss a midterm exam for a religious holiday or a university-sanctioned activity, you need to come and talk with me in advance. If you need to do a makeup exam, we can arrange that, but it has to be arranged in advance. If, however, you're sick, you need to let me know within 2 days, and then we'll find a way to arrange for you to make up the exam. Please bear in mind, if you are sick, I'm going to need documentation, and I will call whoever has signed that letter to make sure it's not forged. In addition to the midterm exams, as I said, on the 11th of December, there will also be a final exam. That final exam will cover everything that we have done in this class. It's important to notice that we actually have a built-in makeup midterm exam as well. We recognize that you're freshmen, that you're just getting started in college, and that sometimes stuff happens and we don't do as well on one exam as we would like to. So on the day of the final exam, you'll actually have the opportunity to make up one of the midterm exams of your choice. Basically, in the 2-hour final exam period, 1 hour will be devoted to the final exam, and you'll also be given copies of 4 makeup exams for one for each of the midterm exams. You can read all of those exams, and you can decide if you want to do an exam, you write it. If not, you don't. If you write one of those exams, the makeup midterm exams, your grade on that makeup will then replace whatever grade you earned on the original exam, even if your makeup grade is lower. So we'll talk about this more during the course of the semester, but do bear in mind, we have an opportunity built in for you to replace one of your midterm scores later on with a makeup midterm exam if that's necessary for you. This is really helpful because quite often you find that the first exam you didn't quite know what you're doing and your score is not as nice as you would like, and so you do have an opportunity to work on that later. The next part of the syllabus is a discussion of honors contracts. I work together with Professor Thomas Moore, who's going to be leading a series of supplementary discussions for those interested in getting honors credit for this class. There is also a module about this on the Canvas course site, and Tom will be in class on Friday to talk about it. So talk with Tom, contact me if you have questions about any of these things. Finally, I don't require you to come to class. I do think it's to your benefit to come to class, but I understand that sometimes you have other things going on. You oversleep, you're tired, you got a homework assignment, whatever. So you're adults. I respect that, and I want you to make decisions about whether or not you come to class. I hope you'll find it useful, and I'll encourage you to come as often as possible, but it is not actually graded in this class. However, if you miss a class, it's going to be your responsibility to keep up with any material that you miss and any announcements that we make in class that day. Any announcements that are not made in class, I will post onto the Canvas site, and you'll have that as part of your Canvas feed. The next part of the syllabus here is a preliminary schedule of topics. There's also a copy of this on the Canvas site that I update regularly as we actually get going, and I have to adjust these topics a little bit. So I'll just talk you through this table because you'll find the table on the Canvas site as well as it gets updated. It tells you the date of each of our class meetings, or if a class has been canceled for a holiday, you'll find that here in the topic section. Either you find a description of what we're doing in class, the topic, or whether it's been canceled. In this reading column, I try to tell you the place in the OpenStax textbook as well as the TRO textbook that most closely matches the content you find in the notes. And then in the assignments column is a list of any assignments in Mastering Chemistry that are due that day. And what you see, for example, is on Friday, August 30th, we have 3 assignments due: the Introduction to Mastering Chemistry homework, the homework I call Homework 0, and the quiz I call Quiz 0. Those are all getting started with mastering chemistry and solving some arithmetic type problems associated with chemistry. In general, you'll see homeworks. There's almost always a homework and a quiz due on Fridays. The only exception is when there's an exam on Fridays. So for example, on Friday the 20th of September, there's an exam, so the homeworks are due that week on Wednesday. And you find all of these due dates also in the Canvas course calendar on our Canvas site. So that if you use an electronic calendar, if you don't use the Canvas calendar, I would highly recommend that you download the Canvas calendar course feed and put it into your Google Cal or your iCal or wherever you keep your calendar. Because I've already entered all the deadlines for this class for the semester. So you can go ahead and use that course feed to plan out your time between now and December. Bear in mind the the Mastering Chemistry assignments, both the homeworks and the quizzes, are always due at 4:59 p.m. on Fridays. They're not due at midnight. Please listen as I say that again. The homework and quiz assignments are always due at 4:59 p.m. on the day that they are due, not midnight. Okay, the next part of this syllabus is a page of tips for being successful in this class, but also in other classes at ASU. This is culled from years of working with students, as well as my own experience. I'm going to draw your attention to a few things. Use a calendar, as I just said. Time management and planning ahead are really essential, so please take advantage of the calendar resources that I've already built on the Canvas site. Work every day. People often come to me in office hours unhappy with how they're doing, and I ask them how they're studying, and they tell me they sit down on Thursday night to do all their homework. This is not a good strategy. Plan a little bit of time every day to do your chemistry homework, because that way you forget less, you're more effective at studying, but it also leads to number 3, which is start early. If you start doing homework early and you encounter a problem, you can go and get help. Whereas if you plan all your studying time on Thursday night between 6 p.m. and midnight, I'm not available, I'm not answering my emails, and you're not making productive use of your study time because you can't get answers if you're stuck on something. Finally, I'm going to say this over and over and over again. The best way to be successful in this class is to solve problems. Solve them individually, solve them with your friends, just solve problems. Make sure you're solving problems yourself. It's very easy to let me solve a problem and you watch, or to let your friend solve a problem and you watch. But watching someone else solve a problem and understanding what you see is not the same as generating the solution for yourself. In order to be successful, you really need to solve problems yourself. And finally, what every freshman tells me they wish they'd known sooner was that they should just ask for help. There's a lot of resources available to help you in this class, as I said on the first page of the syllabus. We are all here to help. You will probably never manage to shock us with one of your questions. So if you need help, please come in and ask for it. The rest of the syllabus includes general information about ASU policies, like don't cheat, like who to go to if you're unhappy with your grade, or that you're not allowed to sell my notes, things like that. So please read through the rest of the syllabus on your own using the PDF copy on the website.